Good day to everyone. It's Steve Wyss here, and I'm joined by professional gambler Will White here on Betting Weekly Live for his debut on the show. How you doing, White? Will?
Very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well. I've been injured, as I spoke to you earlier about it. Did my ankle in 2 days ago. I was in hospital, A&E, for about 6-7 hours a couple of nights ago. Bad sprain, but
I can't say I noticed it on yesterday's show, Steve. So can't be that bad, mate.
well, it's getting a bit better. Probably ruled me out of action for a week in my various sports, but ready and raring to go today on the betting front, and a lot to discuss.
Yeah, let's get into it. I believe we've got a tennis match we want to discuss that should be starting any minute now, right?
Yeah, we're going to have to go straight into this because it's a US Open tennis match that you are very interested in. Diego Schwartzmann against Vilius Gaubus. Now, this match probably will be going on live in play on the site very, very soon. And there's an interesting storyline here as well, Will, isn't there, with Schwartzmann? But who do you like for the game?
Well, Diego Schwartzmann, one of my favorite ever tennis players. I've been a long time tennis fan and tennis bettor myself. I love Diego Schwartzmann. He's a diminutive 5'7" Argentine that recently came out to say he'd be retiring next season at the Argentine Open in February. He's really been running on fumes the last couple of seasons, and he's admitted as much in interviews. But he seems to be going for a final kind of burst of energy here at the US Open qualifying. There seems to be a kind of a narrative around South American players that generally they're stronger on clay, but I don't think that's the case with Schwartzmann. I actually think the lower kind of bouncing surfaces, like you see at the US Open hard courts, suit his game, and he has had success at the US Open in previous seasons. Actually reached the quarterfinals twice, beating the likes of Marin Cilic, Alexander Zverev. He's a quality player, and if he's got enough in the tank, I really think he's going to be far too good.
Minus 155. Sorry to interrupt. Minus 155. It's now come up on live on the site. Is
wow.
that what do you think to that price? The ball hasn't been served yet or anything, but Diego Schwartzmann would be the pick there on the money line.
Yeah, it would be. It was minus 137 pre-match. I'm not sure what shortened it up there. Maybe it's just a little bit extra margin because the match has been turned in play. But yeah, minus 155. Maybe look and see if Gaubus holds serve here in the first service game. The algos might push Schwartzmann out to like a minus 135 or even minus 130. And at that point, I'd be very keen.
There is a significant wager whilst we're talking about tennis, the match which is just about to kick off as well. $58,000 bet has been placed on Alexandra Sasnovich on the money line at minus 167 against Zeynep Somnez. This is US Open qualifying for ladies. A massive wager there. So if anyone wants to follow in on Sasnovich, that will be heading live on the site soon as well, I do believe. So a huge bet there. Welcome in, everyone. Do leave some comments and any questions. Ask the big professional gambler, Will White, anything you want today. We're going to be talking about UEFA Conference and Europa League, plus some Copa Libertadores. Whilst we're on the subject of tennis, I know there is a big pick that you like later in the ATP Winston-Salem event. Will, must be added, by the way, you are a professional gambler on various different sports. Soccer is your main one, but I know you're really big on tennis, probably a couple of others, which you might talk about a bit later. ATP Winston-Salem then. This is Alex Michelsen against Christopher Eubanks. Minus 245 Michelsen on the money line. What are your thoughts on this game, Will?
Main angle here, Steve, is both of these guys, very big servers, quite poor returners. Christopher Eubanks in particular has very, very low service break percentages. I know Sean Calvert on the tennis show likes to get into the data in terms of service points won, return point won. It's for Eubanks, 84.4% holds and 11.7% breaks. Those are his career statistics. So he breaks serve once in every 9 service games. Michelsen's got a big serve, holds 80.6% of the time over his career, breaks only 20.9% of the time. I think the over 22.5 games is attractive, but I prefer the over 10.5 games first set at massive plus 190. And I feel like Sean Calvert would be on board with this too. So yeah, over 10.5 games, first set plus 190. I think it kicks off about 7 hours from now. So that's Winston-Salem.
Yeah, that is a 6:30 p.m. kickoff time at Eastern. Michelsen, Eubanks, like the first set games overs there.
Yeah.
Another significant tennis wagers need to talk about now. This is a 8 p.m. kickoff Eastern. Pablo Carreno Buster on the money line, -167. Bit of a mouthful there. 4,000. One of the biggest tennis plays today on Bet Rivers against Lerner TN. So that is the tennis sorted. Just remind us of that play again, Will.
It's Chris Eubanks, Alex Michelsen over 10.5 games in the first set, +190. There are various lines on the Bet Rivers site. I think the 10.5 is the most attractive because you just get so much extra boost in price from going from the 9.5 to the 10.5. So I'm happy to take my chances and hope it goes to 12 games or a tiebreak.
Right, well, let's get into the soccer then. And I mean, where do we start? There's so many games today in Europe. We've got Europa League and Conference League. We're going to start with Actually, we're going to start with Conference League because probably the most notable fixture of the day does see. I've got the wrong graphic up there. We're going to put that up. Actually, hold on a minute. I'm getting mixed up here. Yeah, Chelsea against Servette. That is the big game of the day in the Conference League. Chelsea -670 favourites, the Premier League side. Servette, pretty much a 12-1 shot. The tie is +720. We've got some other matches there we're going to talk about soon. But Chelsea, a lot of talk about them going into this season. Will I mean, I used to work for a company called Football Radar, and you used to get bonuses if you predicted the correct 11, all 11 for the teams. I really feel for the Chelsea analyst that have got going there now because he's got no chance, has he, of getting you do well to get 6 or 7. They've got about a 40-man squad. Supposedly, it whittled down to 30 in training. Chelsea here again. I mean, Servette, the Swiss side. There should be logically a clear gulf in class between them. But would your money be on Chelsea here, or what do you think?
I think there are two main questions here. The first one you've definitely hit upon, which is what team will Chelsea put out? I've had a little look around the forums to try and get an idea myself. Some Chelsea fans think they'll go full strength. Others think they'll rotate. I would probably lean more towards the rotation angle. They'll have the big guns on the bench. I mean, they're all big guns, right, in the squad. But the second question is, how good are Servette? And that's also a very hard question to answer. Would my money be on Chelsea on the money line at -670? No, I think it's just a bit too short. But there are a few angles I like here. I think the first is Nicholas Jackson. I think to me, he's interesting at +108 to score here. If you look at who could be starting instead of him, Marc Guéhi from Barca. Guéhi's actually much shorter, but I think Jackson's more likely to get the start here. And I believe rules on Bet Rivers are if your player doesn't start, your stake is refunded.
That's correct. Yeah, totally right.
I think that does make Jackson appeal. Last season for Chelsea, despite getting a lot of criticism and flack from Chelsea fans, he did score in 14 of 31 starts. Season before that, 12 from 16 for Villarreal. So, you know, there's a lot of firepower on this Chelsea team, even if they do rotate. And I had a little look at Servette. It's hard to really know how strong the Swiss league is, which they're currently top of. But they might be slightly underrated. They did keep it tight in last season's Conference League. But if you look at the Europa League group stage games that they played when they finished third in that group, anytime they did run into quality teams away from home, the likes of Roma, Slavia Prague, they got thumped. They drew
0-0 against Braga away from home in the most recent. This was in Europa League qualifying, and they deserved that draw as well. You know what I quite like here, Will? This is a bit of a lean draw, but rather than anything, Servette plus a half goal on the Asian handicap first half. It wouldn't shock me if they got into half-time level here at 0-0. They're going to park the bus. They're going to play and try and frustrate Chelsea, and Chelsea are just not. I mean, it's only their second game of the season. I'm not sure in the first half they are going to break them down. Second half might be a different matter. They've got a huge bench to pick from. But Servette, I don't think they're mugs. They're no mugs here. They've got very unlucky with the draw, haven't they? But they would probably qualify against quite a lot of teams, you know? So
what's the price on that, Steve, on that plus half a goal first half?
Plus 150. Plus half a goal first half.
Yeah, I could see that. I think if that was the play, you could probably parlay it, well, kind of in a convoluted parlay into if it is a draw at half time and Chelsea with all that firepower on the bench, they're gonna want to win this game, and they're going to want to win it quite comfortably to have an easier second leg. So I can see, if Chelsea at halftime say a -1 on the Asian line, I'd be interested in that, as long as it was a draw or they were behind at halftime.
You can get +1 on Servette at half time at -136, which obviously offers a lot more security.
Yeah.
That might be, but it's a difficult match to bet on, really, when there's such a big favourite. There are bigger fish to fry, as we might say. We're going to stay with Conference League whilst we're at it, and I'm going to talk about a match here at the top of the show. Hacken against Heidenheim, the Swedish side against Bundesliga outfit Heidenheim. Half of the Bundesliga qualified for Europe last season, somewhat ridiculously. So they got in fair and square to a degree. I don't like Heidenheim this season. I think they could get relegated from the Bundesliga, and I'm more than happy to take them on here this evening in Sweden. It's on an artificial surface in Gothenburg here. Hacken are a club from Gothenburg. They score a lot of goals, Will. A hell of a lot of goals. I mean, in the recent rounds, they've just been scoring for fun. I really like Hacken on the draw no bet here around even money or the 0 Asian handicap. I think they can get a result. Over 3.25 goals is around even money as well. Really like both of those plays. The Swede, some might say there is a big gulf between Swedish and German sides, but if we you're the right man on for this show, really, because you're a man of ratings and comparing leagues. And, the thing is, they're not, Heidenheim for me are a bottom 5 team in the Bundesliga. So Hacken have nothing to fear here.
Yeah, I am a ratings guy, but there are certain narratives that I just don't want to take on. If you use ratings-based models here, you're actually going to be looking at Heidenheim on the draw no bet and thinking that's quite attractive, but it's not for me. I think the artificial pitch is a big deal. So that's one narrative that I think has quite a lot of weight to it, and I think the data would also show that. And then just the fact that they're highly likely to be a lot sharper. They're definitely likely to be, at peak fitness, but the sharpness as well. And we've seen that over the past couple of nights in the Champions League qualification, albeit Malmo didn't get the job done. But there are certain narratives that I'm willing to take on, and the two that you've mentioned, I'm not willing to take on. And then it would take a very brave man to take you on in matches involving Scandinavian teams, Steve.
Well, I was wrong yesterday with Malmo. They let me down badly. I expected a lot more from them. They let the whole panel down because RJ was on the overs, James was on the overs, I was on Malmo on the handicap, and they were terrible. They deserved to lose the match. I thought 1-0, 2-0. But look, teams Hacken, I think for me, I would say they're about the joint second best side in Sweden with Djurgården. In general, they've got a lot more firepower than most teams. So. And this is not the worst draw in the world for them against Heidenheim. So I'm happy to take them on there. There's a match that you are very interested in, Will, in the Conference League. Lens against Panathinaikos. Lens are -250 on the money line. Panathinaikos as big as +620 with a tie at +330. There's been some significant money for Lens today. They've really been backed in quite a lot of the Liga side. Disappointing sort of qualifiers so far for the Greek teams. PAOK haven't been amazing. Panathinaikos knocked out by Ajax. What's your take on this game, and who would you go with?
I think the traders and the bettors are getting way too carried away with Will still coming into Lens, with the Greek team's poor qualification campaign so far. I think this season this would have been the plus on the +3/4 line for Panathinaikos, and we're now looking at a +1.25 line. They were okay against Ajax. Will Still's tenure, I guess, has been given the seal of approval with a huge market move in their favour in their opening game versus Angers in Ligue 1 that they won 1-0. They've also been smashed in here. I think the +1.25 is too big. I'm not sure if I'm going to back it yet. Hopefully we'll see a bit more money for Lens. But the other question is, does Ioannidis start for Panathinaikos? There's a lot of transfer speculation around him. He's a big deal for them. Top scorer, I believe. So yeah, if anything, I'm definitely going to be keen on the +1.25 Panathinaikos.
Well, I've got to be honest. I mean, Lens here are managed by one of the very top prospects in coaching in the whole of Europe. Will Still is going to go all the way to the top. I've been waxing lyrical about him ever since he's came in, and they're going to be really fired up here. Lens, I thought, performed quite well in Europe last season. They beat Arsenal at home. Their home advantage has got to be worth, in your ratings, Will, it's got to be worth one of the biggest in the whole of Europe. You know, absolutely huge advantage. And the Greeks, I mean, Greek football for me now, from what I've seen of it, last year it was going a bit better, but none of the teams have impressed me at all. PAOK were awful. Panathinaikos, yes, they got a win in Amsterdam last week, but I don't really know what sort of level Ajax are at. I think Lens are more than justifiable. They deserve the favouritism tag here. I mean, the French league is a million miles better than the Greek league. It's a million miles better. I'm surprised you're looking at the handicap here and taking on an absolute fortress of a stadium.
Points taken, Steve. And I think this is ultimately what we're discussing now. This is the true challenge, right, that the better faces, which is analysing, you know, our emotions and our feelings and what our eyes see about a game, and trying to associate probabilities and goals-based ratings with those things. Like, I agree with everything you've said. Huge home advantage. Will Still's very exciting. Top prospects. Greek teams look poor, don't they? But there's a price for that. Like, what price would you be back in Lens on the -1.25 line here, or would you need a bit bigger? Surely you'd need bigger.
I mean, Lens on a -1.25, that feels... I mean, they're going to win the game for me. At very least, they're going to win the game. I just can't imagine a world tonight where they don't get the win. Look, they might win by 1 goal. But I just think anyone playing the handicap here is playing for the 1-goal win for Lens. That's just the way I see it, personally. I just think at the minute there's Panathinaikos are not in any sort of form whatsoever. So that's the way I'd go. I mean, you've got to go with your ratings, and, I get there's a time and a price for everything, right? So fair enough. And, your models, last night you were saying off air, Sparta Prague were your sort of thing. So fair play there. You might be right about the Panathinaikos angle. But I just think, all I'm saying is I think Lens at home is not... I would never really ever want to bet against Lens at home, probably in any match.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, there's more way to skin the cat of becoming a winning sports bettor, and often we can be on opposite sides, but both win, right? Like, for example, if you bet Lens early on the -3/4 goal handicap, and you had that ticket stuck in your back pocket, and then I came along when it had moved to +1.25, and I bet the +1.25, and Lens did win by 1 goal, we'd both have a half win, right? So it's all about price. It's all about timing. It's all about getting on at the right moment. And if you have bet Lens early here and got on at -3/4 goal, you've got a great price and you've got the best of it. Probably wouldn't be backing them here, though.
I think I'm telling you a bet that, I mean, that is a match I wouldn't get heavily involved in. I would certainly go towards the Lens angle for me. But a match that I really do like in the Conference League, and this is a big, probably one of my best bets of the day, Will, is in the Wisla Krakow game against Cercle Bruges. And I like over 2.75 goals here. We've not actually got that match up on the graphic. But I personally think that Wisla Krakow, this Polish second-tier side, let's not forget that. They got absolutely battered by Rapid Vienna a couple of rounds ago. And Cercle Bruges, I saw them against Molde. They're full of chances. And they should have scored more goals against Molde, actually, in the last round. Red card in the second leg didn't help them either. But over 2.75 goals, -110. That's probably my best bet of the Conference League round today. Let's move to Europa League now. There's a big match you want to talk about, and it's the Polish champions Jagiellonia Bialystok against Ajax, Will. Ajax -130 favourites on the road. They've got a new manager this season. Just squeezed past Panathinaikos in a crazy penalty shootout. Went all the way to, I think, penalty number 17, something ridiculous like that. Where are Ajax in your ratings at the minute, Will? Last year, I know they weren't very high. And do you think they're going to get a result tonight?
I'm deliberating currently, as to how much to upgrade Ajax. Farioli's come in, very talented manager. The market thinks he's going to turn things around there. The market's upgraded them by almost half a goal. It feels like about half the goal. And so I don't really know where I am at on that spectrum thus far. So I don't really have a view on who's going to win the game. Obviously, Ajax are favourites, -130. So they should be winning it 54% of the time, let's say. So based off the kind of DNA of Ajax, we spoke about them many times last season and how attacking and open they were. Now, Farioli might bring a different strategical plan to Ajax. He might make them more defensive. Certainly the signs are there that might be the case. But I'm still want to look at goal scorers for Ajax. And I think the timing is right for Brian Broby to get a start here. And his anytime goal scorer, again, like the example I gave earlier with Mark Jui and Nicholas Jackson, Chuba Akrom is much shorter than Brian Broby in the betting here. And I think Broby is the better player. I think he's definitely got a much better scoring record, 19 in 29 starts last season, 13 in 17 the season before, and 7 in 4 in the 2021-22 season. I think Broby, anytime goal scorer at plus 138, is too big. If he doesn't start, you get your stake refunded. If he does start, I think he's more likely than not to bang one in. So that's what I would be going for. And I'd be backing that the Ajax DNA in a tie like this, they're going to remain quite attacking. Got lots of weapons there, right?
I don't think Brian Broby is going to be on penalty duty. He in the shootout he actually missed twice. I don't know if that's ever really happened in a shootout before. He had a chance to send them through, and twice he missed. And one of them was miles over. It was like he was training to become a field goal kicker for an NFL team. It was horrendous stuff from Broby. But from open play, he's a very physical player, dangerous. Minus 125 now, Ajax on the money line against the Polish champions, who I think they're a bit of a basket case club in terms of style. Gung-ho, they'll be going for it here. Ajax... The manager, Farioli, he wants control on games. That's, I think, the best way of saying it, control. It's a strange hire, actually. It's not really an Ajax sort of way, the way that he's going to try and implement soccer. So I don't know if it works or not. I think he's actually better than Ajax. He's such a good tactical coach. He could go anywhere. Almost wasted in the Eredivisie, but maybe he's thinking, a lot of coaches from there have got some big jobs. So Brian Broby there for Ajax to score any time. A match. My best play in the Europa League today is in the Molde Elfsborg game. This is Battle of Scandinavia, Norway against Sweden, and I love the over 3 Asian goals for this match. It's around about even money. I think it's a really big price. You've got two massively attack-minded teams playing against each other here. This is a 1 p.m. Eastern time kickoff, so it's one of the earlier games. Over 3 Asian goals at minus 113. You get a full push if 3 goals exactly are scored. Played on an artificial surface, which actually encourages attacking soccer, I would say. Elfsborg, Molde are actually not a bad price here. They were drifting a little bit during the day. Minus 139 now on the money line. Would they tempt you in here against an Elfsborg side who really do lack European experience?
It's a waiting game for me at the moment with Molde, and I'm hoping they drift. They keep on drifting. There's a big move for Elfsborg. I believe Molde opened minus 160 something, already at minus 139. They get to minus 120. I'll be all in. I think this is a syndicate move backed by data-driven ratings, and I just think that the kind of unquantifiable elements of this match all point to Molde, and at minus 120, I think they'd be far too big. I wouldn't necessarily put anyone off getting involved now at minus 139, but I'm going to wait.
You're one of the biggest professional gamblers in the UK. Will most of your money be going on games when you know the lineups, Will, in general?
Yes.
And in running as well. I know you're a big in running player. I mean, just, it's a brief, and we'll probably ask you again on another show, but if you had to give one bit of advice for in running bettors on any sport, especially soccer, I mean, what would it be? Do you need a price and do you need a line and it hits it and you just take it? Do you need to be more mathematical, or are you going by the eye test?
A little bit of both. Specifically in regards to today's kind of card of football. In the Chelsea match, for example, take the Chelsea match. If they do rotate, they're going to have a lot of big guns on the bench. And so maybe waiting till halftime, especially if it's a close game, especially if they're drawing or they're behind at halftime, getting involved with Chelsea on the Asian handicap, knowing that they're gonna want to win the game, they're going to want to get a comfortable cushion to take back to Switzerland. So they're on the minus 2.25 line now. Say it's 0-0 at halftime, and you're looking at a live line of Chelsea minus a goal, right? It's roughly half the opening handicap. A bit of kind of respect for the fact that there are normally more goals in the second half than the first. -1 Chelsea at halftime at 0-0. That would be a bet for me. So that's one thing I'd say. And another thing I'd say is look out for overreactions in the opening for 15 minutes. Often you'll see handicaps wildly wildly gyrate in running based off the run of play. And I think you've got to kind of look at a football match as an exercise in peaks and troughs and kind of like giving your max energy at certain points in the match. You can't sustain it for 95 minutes on a football pitch. And so I like to look for overreactions where teams look really good, the market piles on, and I'll take the other side. And maybe that's just my contrarian nature, but that's a kind of angle I do enjoy as well.
Thanks very much for your comments so far. Dan Roebuck said, would I ever bet against a French or a Swedish team? Well, I'm actually expecting Molde to win this game. So, I would be against Elfsborg, Dan, here for sure. Loads of comments about the Panathinaikos game as well. Simon makes a very good point about the Swedish league being mid-season. That's a big thing to say. You know, there's teams in these qualifiers that are midway through their season and others are just getting started. There was a notable soccer wager, over $2,000 on a 4-leg parlay today. Will this is at plus 225. The money line on Chelsea, Real Betis, Fiorentina, and Ajax. So $2,000 on that 4-leg parlay. Ajax, there was nearly a 4-figure bet on Ajax as well on the money line today. So Ajax a very popular play. Just before we finish, finishing with Europa, anything else that you would like today on the card, Will, at all? I think was there one other game, or are we through yours now?
I'm happy to talk about any game. I got a few things. I mean, I've got one thing I'd like to say. The Braga Rapid Vienna is an interesting game.
I like Rapid Vienna there, +1 actually.
Yeah. I'm interested in Rapid Vienna. I think they're underrated here, but I'm not that keen on taking Braga on at home. I mean, they didn't look great against Servette, but I'm not keen on taking them on. But I think Rapid Vienna are underestimated here. I think they're a much better team than Servette. Both teams to score, yes, would have been a bet, but it's a little too short. I think at -130-ish range, that's a bet, but I think they're currently -152. So, yeah, that's one game where I've kind of just missed out on that one.
There's just so many games. That's the problem. There's so many games. But best bets for me would be, I say, Wisla Krakow against Cercle Brugge over 2.75 goals. Molde versus Elfsborg over 3 goals. And your 2 best bets for the Conference League, what would you have? And Europa League?
Across both, I would say Molde, if they continue to drift, are definitely a bet there. And I'm not going to say Pana +1.25. I'm not so keen on. I couldn't have that as a best bet. But we did forget to talk about the Bolivar Flamengo game, Steve.
Yes, actually, before we go, Copa Libertadores on the screen there. Sao Paulo Nacional de Montevideo. Bolivar against Flamengo. This is a match. Bolivian opposition against Flamengo. Bolivar -112 on the money line. This is a massively tempting price in Copa Libertadores. I mentioned about the strongest yesterday on the handicap. I lost half on the -1.25 line I gave out. I've no idea how the strongest didn't win by more than a goal. But the altitude here in La Paz, exactly the same venue as the strongest match last night, 3,600 meters high, nearly 12,000 foot. This is a much better team that's coming here, Flamengo, but it's a much better price just on the money line. They're 2-0 down, Bolivar. So Flamengo can lose this game and still go through. Is this the biggest home advantage in the world, by the way? You're a man who has to factor in loads of things with your model and things. I can't think of anywhere apart from if Nepal had a league where, and they were facing someone who's coming in from Indonesia or whatever. This has got to be the biggest home advantage, right?
It's definitely one of them. I think Always Ready, another Bolivian team. I think they're at slightly higher altitude, and then there is a Peruvian club that play even higher, but I can't remember the name of them, in Cuezco or somewhere in Peru. But yes, obviously that this is the biggest talking point and behind this game is the altitude, and it's the hardest thing to quantify as well, right? Often you'll see money on both sides, and you'll see wild pre-match swings in games like this. Flamengo.
I like Bolivar here.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest. This is almost an automatic bet. When I see a Bolivian side at home against literally anyone at -110, unless they're against maybe a fellow Bolivian side or a team that's used to altitude, I'm just thinking get on. It's just the way. I think they're actually a better team than the strongest this season as well. It does seem to switch between the two of them. I think Bolivar are the better team. They've only lost 2-0 in Brazil. That's not a bad result.
Yeah, I mean, that Flamengo squad is packed with household names, right? Like guys like Eric Pulgar, Chilean international, Georgian Derascata, Uruguayan international, Bruno Henrique, David Luiz. These guys are household names. They're big quality players. But how well, they're all 30 plus. How well are they going to cope with the altitude? So to kind of parlay into your view, Steve, what I'd say is if you want to get a bigger price on Bolivar, maybe wait. See if Flamengo get off to a decent start when they've got the most air in their lungs. Once it gets to 20, 30 minutes, minus a quarter, maybe even draw no bet if you're lucky, and then pile in and look for that second half.
Second half for me. Again, it didn't happen last night. I don't know how the strongest didn't win the second half last night, but Bolivar would be worth getting on at half-time in that particular game. Just before we go, some notable winners and losers from yesterday on the sportsbook here at Bet Rivers. $50,000 on Alexandrova in the women's tennis in Monterey. That was a winner for someone. Great win there. Emma Navarro as well on the money line, 35 grand on that. And a live bet on Pablo Choreno Busta at minus 143, another $35,000 winner. There was a good day for the bettors yesterday, Will. Although the Mariners did let a particular better down against the Dodgers. Plus 155, though, it's $17,000 loser was the biggest loser on the book yesterday. And also $15,000 on the Braves in the baseball against the Phillies was a loser. So much to talk about. I could have done an hour with you today, Will, but really enjoyed it. And you'll be back on these live shows very soon. Good luck, whatever you're taking today, in whatever sport. Stay safe. As cash and winners. And remember to gamble responsibly. But we'll see you next time on Betting Weekly Live. Tomorrow, I've got Lewis is on the show. And we're going to be talking about a bunch of stuff heading into the weekend. See you next time.